So this is a developing story that is taking a lot of turns. So we're going to try to keep up with the latest. This was published 2 hours ago in the AP. Investigative journalist Nicole Hannah Jones's tenure application at the University of North Carolina was halted because she didn't come from a traditional academic type background, and a trustee who vets the lifetime appointments wanted more time to consider her qualifications. That's what the university leaders said today. Trustee who leads the subcommittee that considers tenure applications, Charles Duckett, chose in January to postpone the review of Hannah Jones's submission. According to Richard Stevens, the chairman of the board of trustees for the Chapel Hill campus, it was never brought before the full board for approval, and instead the Pulitzer Prize winning journalist accepted a 5-year appointment to the Faculty of Journalism School. So this is a statement. We're talking about a lifetime position here, so they're not entered too lightly, Stevens told reporters, and it's not unusual for a member of the board, or in particular the chair of the committee, to have questions for clarification about background, particularly candidates that don't come from a traditional academic type background. In this case, Claire Duckett, not Claire, asked for a little bit of time to be able to do that. Faculty members at the university's Hussman School of Journalism already slammed that reasoning in an open letter on Wednesday, noting that the last two professors who held Hannah Jones's chaired position were giving tenure when appointed. They said the journalism school's strength lies in its roster of longtime professionals who worked in the industry. The foundation that endows Hannah Jones's position, the Knight Chair in Race and Investigative Journalism, also urged the school to reconsider its decision. So now, the reason why this particular professor is controversial is because Hannah Jones won the Pulitzer Prize for her work on the 1619 Project for the New York Times. The university announced in April that Hannah Jones will be joining the faculty in July. Some conservatives have complained about the project, which focuses on the country's history of slavery. Knight Foundation President Alberto Ibargüen, I'm sorry, dude, if I butchered your name, issued a statement noting that while the foundation respects the independence of the universities where it endows chairs, he hopes UNC will reconsider its decision to offer Hannah Jones a contract position instead of tenure. Hannah Jones didn't respond to an email asking for comment, but on Thursday she tweeted, "I have been overwhelmed by all the support you all have shown me. It has truly fortified my spirit and my resolve. You all know that I will be okay, but this fight is bigger than me, and I will try my best not to let you down." The 1619 Project is an initiative of the New York Times Magazine that began in August 2019, the 400th anniversary of the beginning of American slavery. The magazine describes the project as being designed to reframe the country's history by placing the consequences of slavery and the contributions of Black Americans at the very center of our national narrative, which makes fucking sense. The project was converted into a popular podcast. Materials were developed for schools to use, and the Pulitzer Center partnered with the Times to develop the 1619 Project lesson plans. However, objections to the 1619 Project have morphed into legislative efforts to prevent its presentation in public schools. The backlash continues today because it's one of the new boogeymen. Just like socialism, they can say critical race theory. It sounds scary to conservatives. 20 state attorneys general told the education department that they oppose teaching critical race theory in classrooms, according to a letter they penned yesterday. The attorneys general, led by Indiana Attorney General Rokita sent a letter to Education Secretary Miguel Cardona asking him to reconsider a proposal that would prioritize the 1619 Project and critical race theory for federal grant programs. The letter states that the proposed priorities are a thinly veiled attempt at bringing into our state's classrooms the deeply flawed and controversial teachings of critical race theory and the 1619 Project. Sir, that is a claim. That is, I'm sorry, sir. It was a letter penned by, I'm sure, them, they. We're going to get into pronouns. We get into the Demi Lovato story. They made a claim and didn't issue supporting evidence. How is it deeply flawed? What is the controversy other than right-wingers say it's a controversy? Please tell me. It's the same thing I do whenever a right-winger brings up Marxism. Please tell me what Marxism is and why it's so scary to you. Please, supporting evidence. There you go, Tones. I didn't even think about that. That's a great analogy. Creation theory is deeply flawed and controversial, and they are pushing to have it taught in schools. Jesus. The document continued that one proposed priority was to incorporate racially, ethnically, culturally, and linguistically diverse perspectives into teaching and learning. Yes, yes, yes. You have a problem with that? The project was the subject of intense controversy and backlash from conservative lawmakers and leaders because of course it was. Now this next piece we're getting ready to read is an opinion piece. It was an editorial written inside the Chicago Tribune. By Clarence Page. Let's find out who Clarence. I'm assuming he has something to do with this history museum. He's just a columnist. But who am I to put him down? I'm just a fucking streamer. Clarence Page's column, Who's afraid of critical race theory? Those who don't know what it is. As a practical matter, I'd rather see, for example, more violence de-escalation. What the fuck? Okay, here we go. Critical race theory, or CRT, has become a trigger term for politicians, activists, and media voices, particularly on the right wing, where it's competing with cancel culture on the hit parade of things we're all supposed to be angry about, or afraid of, or both. But the political allure of the term is understandable considering how often it has been appearing in the fevered narratives of conservative media. Exactly. CRT has emerged gradually since the 1970s as an academic movement of civil rights scholars and activists to challenge mainstream liberal approaches to racial justice. Among other pioneers of the CRT movement, legal scholar Kimberly Crenshaw has called it an evolving practice that questions how race as a social construct perpetuates a caste system that relegates people of color to the bottom tiers. The argument has some merit, but, optimist that I am, I also agree with critics who say that CRT too often elevates storytelling over evidence and reason and devalues the racial progress. I've never seen any of these fucking textbooks, so I can't make that assessment. Maybe you have, Clarence Page. The conservative critique was captured well by Kathy Valenti, director of operations for the Illinois Family Institute, who wrote in a letter to the Naperville Sun after some state lawmakers proposed including CRT the New York Times 1619 Project into the state's teacher training and public school classrooms. This was the quote, critical race theory implies that all people who are born with white skin are racist. No, it doesn't. And all whites have power because of their skin color. No, it doesn't. And have used that power to hold back black people of color. No, it doesn't. We just read how race is used to perpetuate a caste system. Not that whites specifically are racist, though if the shoe fits. This is patently false, even though, in my mom's lifetime is when they desegregated schools. Tax dollars should not be used to foster lies, division, and hatred. He also decried as numerous political conservatives do, the New York Times 1619 Project. So it even goes on to claim the board's ignorance about Native Americans. We certainly have a blind spot about teaching country. Now, some of you, if you are comic book fans, or maybe you're fans of the HBO series or the movie, apparently the creator of the comic books is not a fan of the show The Watchmen or the movie The Watchmen. You're probably familiar with the Tulsa Race Massacre. We are coming up on the 100th anniversary, in the city of Tulsa put together a commission. We're actually gonna hear a first-hand account from a survivor here in just a second. Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt on Friday was ousted from the commission created to observe the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa Race Massacre after he signed a bill banning the teaching of critical race theory in schools in the state. The 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre Centennial Commissioners met Tuesday and agreed, this would have been last Tuesday, through consensus to part ways with Governor Stitt. The commission said in a statement issued this past Friday. The commission added that while it is disheartened to part ways, Smokey, I can't see, you're in front of the monitor. It is disheartened to part ways with Governor Stitt. We are thankful for the things accomplished together, according to the statement. Earlier this week, Commission Project Manager Phil Armstrong sharply criticized Stitt for signing the bill that prohibits the teaching of critical race theory, which holds that racism is embedded within U.S. history and laws. It is! He argued the move. We're talking about a whole community was destroyed just 100 years ago. You can't tell me. You're on the commission, sir. You can't tell me you don't understand its fucking impact. Stitt was only made aware of his removal from the commission when the announcement was made on Friday. His spokeswoman, Carly Atchison, told the AP. He also noted that the governor's role in the commission was purely ceremonial, and he had not been invited to attend a meeting until this week. So he's like, I don't give a shit. Fuck. Armstrong said that Stitt did not attend a Monday meeting to discuss critical race theory legislation, which he said left the commission gravely disappointed, according to a letter addressed to the governor and dated Tuesday. Stitt signed the legislation banning critical race theory last Friday, saying, now more than ever we need policies that bring us together, not rip us apart. Wow. So as I mentioned, the city of Tulsa is making a big deal, as it should be.
Buried. 100 years later, the victims will be remembered.
Here, let's go back
The
to
Tulsa
this.
Race Massacre, a dark secret buried. 100 years later, the victims will be
Even in their promo for it, a dark secret buried. Yeah, because fucking the governor of the state doesn't want to teach about this shit because it paints him in a bad light.
remembered in a new way.
They just mean
Wouldn't it be
capitulate to the
greatest
right.
honor
Yep.
to those people who lost loved ones there, to the ones who were murdered, to stand on that ground and say, we remember.
This video
See
just,
how the
just
Oklahoma
shocking.
City National Memorial and Museum is helping.
They were here in our darkest hour, and we need to be there for them.
Wednesday night at 10 on Oklahoma's own News 9.
Here we're going to hear from an eyewitness who was there during the Tulsa Race Massacre. Viola Fletcher, the oldest living survivor of the Tulsa Race Massacre, tells a congressional hearing that she's lived through the massacre every day. Like, a woman that was there is still alive. And the TV station in the city where it happened just said it was forgotten. Fucking, are you telling me that there are rednecks that are waving the Confederate flag around, talking about, like, knowing history? Do you think they know about Wilmington? Do you think they know about Tulsa?
The night of the massacre, I was awakened by
So this
my
is
family.
Viola
My
Fletcher.
parents and 5 siblings were there. I will never forget the violence of the white mob when we left our home. I still see black men being shot, black bodies lying in the street. I still smell smoke and see fire. I still see black businesses being burned. I still hear airplanes flying overhead. I hear the screams. I have lived through the massacre every day. Our country may forget this history, but I cannot. I am a 107-year-old and have never seen justice. I pray that one day I will. No one cared about us for almost 100 years. We and our history have been forgotten, washed away. This Congress must recognize us.
And that's what we're talking about when we're talking about teaching critical race theory. Teaching her story. But apparently the right-wing critique is like it's too focused on stories and emotions. Well, I'm sorry I get emotional at that. And the ramifications of that bullshit persist to this day. Now we're going to hear from a homeowner who shows how systematic racism still exists.
When I got that first appraisal back, I was upset. And then there was some language in the appraisal that just didn't sit right with me. Second one, it came back even worse. It came back at 110,000. And this is just a few months after the first appraisal. And I'm just like, okay, so even if the 125 were correct, how did I lose $15,000 in a few months? Everything that I thought would expose the ethnicity of the person living in the home, I got rid of it and replaced it with something that I felt was ethnically
White.
neutral. The thing that was devaluing my home was me. And it's like, how do you even begin to process that?
Oh, but we can't teach critical race theory in schools because this is going to make fucking old conservative assholes uncomfortable. Because they might have to hear about how their policy has disproportionately affected a whole segment of our society. And you might have to, they tell me all the time that they are the party of personal responsibility. They never fucking take responsibility for anything. Take responsibility for the history of this country.